So what does nested care look like then?
Well, we can start with gestation. The baby is wanted. The parents have healthy bodies before conception, and during pregnancy, then the mom feels loving towards the baby, so that the biochemistry the baby is getting in the body of the mother is actually promoting growth. And there's evidence now if the mom gets stressed a lot in pregnancy, that's carried over into the physiology of the child in various ways. Even grandparents who go through a famine, for example, affect the grandchildren's health in various ways. So there's that aspect. Then there's birth, and the perinatal experiences needs to be soothing and follow the patterns of the baby. Babies vary by how long they stay in the womb by about 55 days.
Wow.
So any yes, amazing. So any due date that's selected is really a guess, because you don't know what that baby is oriented to or needs, right? So
that drives me crazy, the whole due date thing.
Yeah.
They count certain number of days, and then so much matters on this due date that somebody has guessed on, and we don't really know when conception happens. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, and then they force the baby out if they think it's according to that due date, and then babies are born premature in a way. We don't count it that way, but so then there's that. Separating mom and baby, not good. The reward systems of both their bodies are ready to glom onto each other like this permanent magnetic force, and you separate them. That it's sort of like stopping lovemaking in the middle. It's hard to get back into it, right? If someone interrupts you, that flow of energy is just gone. And so we do all sorts of things. Something just fell over, sorry. We do all sorts of things to babies that induce pain at birth. For example, circumcision is a horrible thing, for example, traumatic, that lasts the lifetime psychologically and physiologically. Then after birth, you want to have a soothing birth. And then you want to breastfeed. Now, breast milk is this magic elixir, got thousands of ingredients, builds the immune system with all immunoglobulins needed, which takes years to develop. And so our heritage of breastfeeding, the average age of weaning that's been noted, documented around the world in these places where the nest is provided, is 4 years. 4 years. That's the average. That means it goes beyond that in some communities. So I know
I'm not sure I can handle that.
the mind.
No, thank you.
Right. So I know there are moms that feel like they can't breastfeed, and then there are all sorts of things that interfere with success. So what we need to do, of course, is to have milk banks and wet nurses. Other countries have those in hospitals, for example, wet nurses. But we're a for-profit health care system here, so we don't promote health, optimal health necessarily. So breast milk is really important. Formula is just sort of a good emergency food to keep the child alive, but it doesn't have all this good stuff that's going to build the psychology and the neurobiology of being a human being. Then there's welcoming climate, a welcoming social climate. The child is wanted and loved, feels like they belong, and this is a community of caregivers. So allo parents or allo mothers beyond the mother. And
can you just define that, allo parents?
So that means they're providing the mother-like care. In our ancestral context, it's even breastfeeding a baby that's not yours, for example.
Wow. Okay, so Darsha's saying like people around the mother. Allo parents are like almost parents, right? Like they're people around the mother who are also providing care. Gosh, this is like, keep going. But as you describe this, I like weep for our culture. But go ahead.
Yeah, I know. So allo means other. So it's other mothers, other nurturers, essentially. And what do we want those nurturers to be like? We want them to be responsive. So in babyhood, keeping the baby calm. So you don't hear babies crying in these societies. If the baby makes a sound because they've been put down for a second, they'll say, "Oh, pick up the baby, pick up the baby," because you want to keep them calm in order to develop a calm personality and keep all the healthy biochemistry going. And I mean, not that they examined all this, but they had intuitions about it. And then there's affectionate touch. So allo mothers and mothers will carry the baby around pretty much 24/7 until they become mobile. And then the baby gets to choose whether to be in arms or moving around. So that's, months of caring and co-sleeping and such safely, of course. Then there's free play. Babies are actually under natural conditions, ready to play from birth. They're ready to have the back and forth communication with the caregiver. Could be dad that's holding the baby skin to skin if the mom is can't do that, or the mother. And then to develop that kind of playful interaction, conversations, and little games. Uh, and throughout childhood, our right hemisphere is growing more rapidly in the first years, but it's also gathering experiences that the left brain, the conscious mind, is going to access to decide what to do in life. So children are oriented to play, 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 play when they feel safe and well, which is the way they learn. And it's ideally social play with other people. So you learn then how to get along in that creative moment with the other without overdoing your aggressive kind of in your face activities and reacting to the other. And you have to learn then to control your aggression. You have to learn to read expressions and read your partner. Play is the best thing in the world. I argue or suggest to adults that if you were unnested, how to get back to a healthy
Yeah,
way
I
of
was gonna
being
ask.
is to go play with kids, little kids. Play chase, play tag, play wrestling, and climb trees and be silly, because that's growing the right brain for the adult too.
Mm, that's beautiful. So, kind of what I'm getting from what you said, this like kind of like ideal scenario that you've laid out, that is that there's a there's the obviously the desire for the child to be there. There's a love, but there's a lot of responsiveness, like paying attention to, and just attunement with the child. That responsiveness. It's interesting. I guess I want to like kind of push back on a couple things because the research on like attachment, right, secure attachment, it doesn't show that like sort of the way kids sleep matters as far as like whether there are certain number of people with secure attachment versus insecure attachment, and some of the specific behaviors, but what does show is that it's about the sensitivity of the caregiver. Is the caregiver comfortable in their own skin? Is the caregiver like attuned with themselves so they can be attuned to that child, which is what you're describing, um versus kind of like the specific behaviors of that, right? So I don't know, I just want to offer that up and see how you respond to that.
My view is that the measures of attachment, secure, insecure, disorganized, are just slight indicators of how well life is going for that child. It's not an optimal measure of optimality.
Mhm.
It's just measuring that you're going to get along well enough, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to fulfill all your potential, which is what I say we should be focused on. So I think what's happened in research is so much has gone wrong for children that people are so happy when they don't drop out of high school. They don't get pregnant when they're a teenager. Whoa, that's a win. Well, that's getting back to zero in my mind. We want to get each person to their 100. I want them to be 100% of who they
Mhm.
are and their fullness of their uniqueness, right? And that's
Mhm.
not the research focus right now. I think maybe it's shifting a bit in positive psychology, but there's just a misunderstanding again of that nested care is so important for all these systems that the secure attachment measures aren't measuring.
Okay. All right, cool. Um, so for people now, what my worry is that the listener is going to hear you and be like, oh, great. Now I have a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old. And I'm worried that, the thought in the head is I'm worried that I messed up my child, right? And then what I'm worried is that this conversation was so valuable might put more pressure on moms and who already feel so pressured and so overwhelmed, as it is. What do you say to that kind of parent?
Yeah, there are a couple other aspects of the nest I haven't mentioned. Let me mention
Mm,
those. One is nature immersion and nature connection. we need that as human beings. We are earth creatures, and nature calms us down. Nature heals us. And so that's a great remedy for when we are distressed or overwhelmed, to go sit under a tree, lie on the earth, earthing, right? Or sunning. Those are healing practices, which is the ninth aspect of the nest, is healing, routine healing practices. And that in our ancestral context means dancing together, singing together, having healing ceremonies, and mending our, imbalance in our bodies and ourselves and our relationships with the earth too. So I think once you're awakened to the fact that the nest is important, and it's already past babyhood time, I think you can start to then employ the playfulness, the nature connection, and then healing practices, cuddling and huggling. My husband and I always huggle, which is snuggling and hugging together. And having, there's things you can do as a single person too, a massage, getting massages and stuff like that. So I know we have to kind of reorient ourselves, and a lot of us adults didn't get this nestedness. So I write a lot about how to heal those, what I call primal wounds of disconnection. So part of it is learning self-calming. If you just talk about a single person, learning self-calming techniques, belly breathing, and other kinds of things, so that you can actually feel fine in your body and start to feel love for yourself and love for your body. But then that's not enough. So with my students, my undergraduate college students, we would also learn to play together. And we'd use folk song games like "A hunting we will go, a hunting we will go, we'll catch a little fox and put him in a box, and then we'll let him go." And when you play these games together as a group, and you can do this in the family, you have to touch each other, you have to look at each other, you have to, pay attention to where you are in the game, and you start to laugh and you start to enjoy yourself, and that right brain is growing. That's what you want. It's right hemispheres, helps you develop empathy, helps you develop self-control, helps you feel connected beyond yourself. And then the last thing is also to understand how you are connected to the whole earth, that you are never alone. You are part of this whole magical web of life, and to, immerse yourself in that kind of knowledge and insight.
Catch new episodes of the Mindful Mama podcast and other free resources, including the Mindful Mom Guide at mindfulmamamentor.com. You can listen to every back catalog episode, including interviews with Dr. Dan Siegel, Janla Van Zandt, Sharon Salzberg, and get meditations, join our private Facebook group, and more. Go to mindfulmamamentor.com now. I'll see you there.